best to waste another day. Sit right here and have another beer in Mexico. Let the warm air melt these blues away.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is, what day is it? Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, which seems very much in the future. I don't know. The 2026 just got me today. Rampant conflict of interest in Carney's government, and that's not surprising, really, at all, because, look at everything else that we've found out in the last couple of years, etc. And so all of this corruption, nobody really cares. Look at Minnesota. Look at justice in the United States. Look at all these judges trying to block Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera. And so to see look at France, look at the United Kingdom, look at Australia, all of these things. When it happens here, I'm not like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? It's like, oh yeah, okay, so that's here too now, eh? Shucks. And so we are being driven into a situation that nobody wants, but the group of people at the top are driving us there. So we are very much sheep being herded, and the sheepdogs are vicious these days with fentanyl and all the other things, mind control, media, and all sorts of other crazy stuff that we have to endure that I'm sure other generations maybe didn't realize they were enduring. Oh, I forgot to turn on YouTube. Sorry about that, everybody. Quickly, YouTube. There you go. What else? They stopped immigration of STEM people. They stopped the stream of STEM immigrants. Isn't that weird? And so people are talking about that. CBC doesn't have to tell us anything. If ads are the question, somebody filed a Freedom of Information request for the price of how much they're spending monthly, yearly on ads, because we're the ones who pay for that, right? And they said, no, we don't have to tell you that. So do they work for us? No, they sure don't. Email from Public Safety Canada trying to get your guns. Thanks, Dale. And a few other people sent it to me as well. I'm not a gun guy. I don't have guns. I wish I was more in the. I've shot guns. I was an Army cadet, but I've shot rifles. I was an Army cadet, so I've had experience around guns, but I'm not a gun guy, and I don't have guns. And it's one of those things where it's like, I think that what the government is doing is terribly, terribly bad, and I have no way to stand up against it. Maybe I could go out and get my pal. I tried to do that, and they didn't schedule me. And it was one of those things where I was like, it was during COVID though, so I should probably try again. Giving Ukraine nukes. Yes, says the United Kingdom and France. Let's do that. They love that idea. Still no news about what the security agreement entails with China. And so that's 2 weeks. And do you think they're going to tell us? No, I don't think they're going to tell us. That's not what they're going to do. And what else? Mexico. We got to start in Mexico. Who is El Yogurt? Yogurt? It's funny, but not really. Kind of. He's the one taking over for El Mencho. And there's a whole bunch of weird stuff. Not weird, but this is a deep state. So you've got a government that's a Potemkin village in the government of Mexico. And then you've got the cartels who actually run it. And they're trying to set up shop in Canada. And we've already got the fake facade of the government, right? And so they're just trying to get the cartels up and running. And they're doing a damn good job. Because it looks like the police are as bad as the Hells Angels used to be. And so in certain ways, I feel like Britain is our future. So what's happened in England seems to be where we're headed. But I feel like it's also by way of Mexico in the structure that they want. So it's an interesting, we live in interesting times, and that's not a blessing. So lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Anita Anand is talking about Mexico and what to do and so on and so forth. And she's upset that they weren't read in, that they didn't have any kind of warning about what was going on. They say to get their people out, but everybody else says, you guys seem to be compromised. And that's probably like the whole Five Eyes thing seems compromised. And that's why Trump didn't tell you anything, right? And so Juno News says, Minister Anand says recent violence in Mexico stems from a targeted operation against the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the JNGC. And Canada was given no prior warning, putting thousands of its citizens at risk. Dozens of Mexican troops and cartel members have since been killed. I know people. I make the joke. I was making the joke a little while ago when I found out that generators were being used to run resorts and things in Cuba. Like, what madman would go to Cuba right now? That would be an insane idea. Like, I hope there's food for all 7 days that we're there. It doesn't make any, that's not a vacation to me, guys. But people going to Mexico, I don't think that they expected to be caught in the situation they're in. But I don't think that's Trump's fault. I really don't think that's Trump's fault. But they're trying to lay all of this unrest, everything, they're going to try and lay at Trump's feet. They're going to try and say, what Trump's doing is leading to this unrest. He's a bad guy. And if you support him, you're a bad guy too. And, sometimes when you have to clean up something, when I was a kid, we had control of the basement, and it was a carpet of toys, and then the closet was all full of toys. And when we cleaned up, we just put the toys in the closet, right? So the floor was clean, but the closet was a disaster. So in order to actually clean up, you have to make a mess. And sometimes you look like an authoritarian a-hole. You're like, we're not getting rid of that toy. I love that toy. And it's like, it's broken, Mark. We're going to get rid of that toy. You authoritarian monster, and so in the same way, sometimes you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Here's Anita Anand, and Juno News says, Minister Anand says recent violence in Mexico stems from I already said that. Here she is. She's talking, and we'll listen to her. Here we go.
Do you believe that President Sheinbaum has the situation under control?
No.
I am concerned with the safety and security of Canadians first and foremost. In answer to your question, in my conversation with Foreign Minister de la Fuente last evening, he indicated that the situation should stabilize in the coming days and that this was a targeted operation which will not continue.
This seems to have been triggered by this, Minister. All this violence has been triggered by the security operation. Given the number of Canadians that were there, were you given any warning that this security operation was going to take place?
I was not provided with any indication that this particular operation would be taking place. And on my understanding, I believe that the Government of Canada was not provided with indication that it was going to occur.
There you go. And Barking Digits says, you were not told precisely because of the level of cartel infiltration in the Canadian RCMP. That's concerning. That's very, very concerning if you ask me. Liz says the reason why Canada was not told about the cartel operation in Mexico is because all leading Canadian politicians are owned by the cartels. Canada was not given any information this operation was taking place, says Anand. And Mr. Poole says this is a little bit more talking about the new leader and what he's assuming responsibility for. He collects up, like Jeffrey Epstein was connecting rich, powerful men with young ladies. He connects up rich people with their addictions, whatever they are, if that makes sense. And he's got the cartel and the money to back him up. And so that cartel doesn't fall into nothing now. Somebody else takes control. And Mr. Poole's talking about what this is, what they're taking apart. And does it survive the decapitation of the leader? I don't know. Not with sustained pressure, I don't think. We'll see. But Mr. Poole lays this out. And again, take this with a grain of salt, but it's interesting insight. Mr. Poole says, the drug lord and the billionaire. Tonight, Trump addressed the nation. Trump addresses the nation. Tonight's the State of the Union address. But the biggest secret won't be in his speech. It's in a file the DEA tried to bury for 15 years, and it's the name of the file. We thought Epstein was just a pedophile. We were wrong. He was running a drug trafficking network of $50 million in suspicious wire transfers, narcotics, and people moving through New York City and the Virgin Islands connected to organized crime task force created to fight cocaine cartels, the same cartels that protected El Mencho. The drug lord and billionaire, two sides of the same coin. The DEA knew since 2010. The prosecutor who arrested Epstein in 2019 had no idea this file existed. Someone made sure they never saw it. Trump found it, Trump released it, and now the world knows. Tonight he'll talk about the economy, but the real economy he's destroying is the one that runs on blackmail, drugs, and children. The cartel is global and it's falling. Maybe. I'd like to be hopeful sometimes. So sometimes I tell you straight up, I don't know if Trump is on the side of the citizen or if he's on his own side. He doesn't seem to be on the globalist side. So that they seem to hate him and they seem to want him dead. So, but does that make him by default on our side? Not necessarily. But if he's taking out this global group, then there's potential that you have to make a mess and look like an authoritarian and so on and so forth. Maybe. Anyway, Table Salt says, major breaking, 2 Canadians. We're going to get back to El Mencho in just a second. Wow, we'll delay this. We'll just come back to that in a second. El Mencho, the media told you El Mencho was a drug lord. They lied. He wasn't a deep state general because he moved cocaine. He was a general because he moved children. His codename appears 17 times in the unredacted Epstein files, the supplier, document blah. For 20 years, his primary cargo was not drugs, it was human. So human trafficking is a major crime and something that people actually do engage in. And you take children to make them sex slaves and things. And I've even heard of people using kidnapping pregnant women in order to kill them and take their baby in a C-section that is done just kind of right there, because you don't care if you kill the mother, you want the baby, right? So yikes. Anyway, for 20 years, his primary cargo wasn't drugs. It was human, children for the island, and organs for the elite. He was the logistical backbone of the entire blackmail operation. The CIA protected him because he supplied the one thing their network needed most. Trump saw the logs, he saw the code name, and on Sunday morning, he gave the order. This was not a Mexican military operation. This was an execution. While the media distracts you with politics, a silent war is raging. Trump is not just draining the swamp. He is hunting the monsters that live in it. The fires in Guadalajara are not chaos. They're the screams of a dying network. The supplier is gone. Who is next? Nothing can stop what is coming. Share this. The world is watching. It's interesting, plausible, very plausible. And that's already, I already read that one. Here's El Yogurt. So the deep state general they killed, El Mencho, is replaced by El Yogurt. And I'm probably getting his name wrong, but it's kind of funny. Are you going to follow a guy named El Yogurt? I mean, you will if he's the leader of this cartel for a few more days anyway. It's being reported that El Yogurt is set to become the next CJNG cartel boss after the passing of El Mencho. And so he gets in front of the camera and there's some guys behind him and he says, I'm not afraid of you. Clearly afraid of Trump. So there you go. Tosca says, oh, hold on. There's a... Here it is, Scheinbaum. Tosca says, when will leaders put citizens first instead of bashing ICE and coddling criminals? Mexican President Claudia Scheinbaum just declared that waging war on the cartels is off the table because it might violate their civil rights and smack of fascism. Meanwhile, these thugs are flooding our streets with fentanyl, murdering innocents and terrorizing communities. When do the rights of law-abiding citizens come first? Time for unified action to protect the people, not partisan name-calling and excuses. So she's not going to fight a civil war against the cartels because reasons. And there are some Canadians who were killed in Mexico. Apparently two have been injured. Multiple airlines have canceled flights. 78 dead in Mexico in clashes with the cartels. Some resorts are running out of food. The Canadian government registration website went down due to overuse. 26,000 Canadians are registered in Mexico right now. So yikes, right? I hope everybody's okay. Seems not good. Seems like a bad situation all around, if you ask me. Yesterday, I started getting emails around midday forwarding this email to me, and I was like, whoa, holy cow. Quick Dick says, good morning, Safety Canada. So Gary Anasangri, have you tried sending this email to all gang members in Canada? No, just licensed hunters and sport shooters? Idiots. Right. So here's the public safety email if you're interested, and there's a little bit more information on the website too. But it says, reminder to individual firearms owners regarding the assault style firearms compensation program. Further to the previous notification sent in January regarding the launch of the assault style firearms compensation program for individuals, this notice serves as a reminder that the declaration period for the ASFCP will close on March 31st, 2026. As of February 20th, 2026, over 32,000 firearms have been successfully declared from every province and territory in Canada. More information can be found here. And then if you click to it, it says something to the effect of, please ensure you dispose of or permanently deactivate your prohibited firearm or device by October 30th, 2026. Failure to do so places you at risk of losing your possessions and your PAL license, your PAL, possession and acquisition license, and criminal liability. So they're going after, they're doing everything they can legally to force you to armbar you into compliance, right? We will take everything that we possibly can if you don't comply with this. And it's, they seem desperate, but they're not getting any kind of compliance. So they can seem desperate all they want, and it's not going to get people to comply, I don't think. So we'll have to see how things work out. Here is Frank Caputo, and we're doing our grab bag of governance. And he says, it's been 2 weeks and the Liberals still haven't responded to a very reasonable call to publicly make available the memorandum of understanding with China related to intelligence sharing. The Prime Minister earlier said China was our greatest security threat. Write to Gary Anasangri and your local MP to make the memorandum of understanding public. I don't think we're ever going to see it. And the reason we're never going to see it is because they don't want us to see it, because they want to emulate China's ability to crack down on its citizens. And so they're going to hand everything over, and they want to. And that's a big problem, because they don't work for us. It's a theme. It's a theme this week. Kelly says Mark Carney's friend and former colleague is making decisions as the CEO of the Defense Investment Agency before his conflict of interest screenings have been completed. So again, our government is in a situation where these people get into the position of power, and then they assume the power, and they like it, and they don't want to give it up. And our conflict of interest screenings are kind of crap anyway. Like, and I'm not saying that, oh, we should accept this as normal and it's fine. It's not. The whole system's incapable of delivering a conflict-free service. And without oversight that ensures the person acting is acting in the best interest of the country and not themselves, until that person is liable for the money that should be behind conflict of interest screens, they could lose all that money if they don't act in the best interest of the people, right? Like, this is a big risk if you are in the public sector and you want to maintain all of your stuff and just, put it somewhere else. Because I can tell you, like, if I give my portfolio to somebody to watch it, they're going to do what I want them to do. And if I have Brookfield, let's just say, because I was the CEO of Brookfield for years, they're not going to sell my Brookfield shares. Like, I know if Brookfield does well, then I do well. And so conflict of interest is crazy. There's no accountability. If we had strong laws that held the people in the positions accountable, then they wouldn't do this shit. But we don't. $500 fine, a slap on the wrist, right? And you don't even really get the slap on the wrist, right? Nobody even cares. Nobody's told that something bad has happened, right? It's like, oh yeah, well, ethics laws were violated by the person who's locking you down. Like, come on. So it is beyond, we should be outraged about this, but this isn't the only thing we should be outraged about. We should be outraged about the fact that the system encourages this. Juno News says a federal court has sided with the CBC, ruling that the state broadcaster can keep taxpayers completely in the dark about how it spends their money. And as I said, the whole situation, I'm not going to get into the article because we talked about this a bit the other day, but the whole situation here is a freedom of information request for how much did they spend on ads. And they said, no, we don't want to tell you that. And then the courts all said, yeah, we don't want to tell you. They don't want to tell you that. And that was that. So Mark Nixon says Matt Strauss is outraged that the Liberals allowed a murderer that stabbed a couple 27 times, including both of their eyeballs, is being given parole to respect the killer's mental health. Liberals care more about killers than the victims and the families of these heinous crimes. Yep. So
years ago, residents of Kitchener, Ontario were shocked to hear of a mass murder in our community. Self-described Satanist Michael Sirois rang the doorbell of 87-year-old Verna, who he once knew from church. He stabbed her and 47-year-old Randy 27 times, including through both eyes. Danny Penner is the brother of Randy. He shared with me the incredible trauma these murders continue to cause in his family to this day. Out of respect for his brother's memory, he has resolved time and again to speak at Michael Sirois' parole hearings. Last week, Danny had flights booked to attend the scheduled hearing, only to have it canceled at last minute out of respect for the psychotic mass murderer's mental health. Our justice system is not delivering justice. Parole should not even be a question for this crime. Why won't the Liberals reform the parole system to respect the bereaved family's trauma rather than the so-called mental health of a psychotic killer? Absolutely. Years ago.
Yeah, well said. And questions continue. The Liberals lost the by-election. The Parti Québécois won. So fourth straight by-election victory for the Parti Québécois. If they were Albertan, they'd be traitors, but they're Quebec. So they're Quebecers. So, hey, it doesn't matter. The Parti Québécois just won again. Fourth straight by-election victory, up from 3 to 7 seats. Leader promises a sovereignty referendum by 2030. The question isn't if pressure builds, it's which province moves first, Quebec or Alberta. Wouldn't it be great if Ontario was its own province and we could trade with people and we could build a refinery and employ people to refine oil and gas and then send that refined oil and gas to Atlantic Canada, get it from Alberta, send it to Atlantic Canada, build a pipeline corridor down the center of the 401 and have trucks spigot off that, like local trucks spigot off that to fill up rather than trucking it all over the place. There's all sorts of benefits, big pipelines everywhere. energy everywhere and making sure that energy is cheap for everyone. Holy smokeronies. And you'd be able to do a lot more if we didn't have to deal with the idiotic federal government. What happens to the federal debt if the federal government is dissolved? Who gets that debt? I don't know, man, but dreams of a better tomorrow, right? Fingers crossed. Pierre Polyev, that would have been a good title for today as well. Pierre Polyev says, great to join MP. I like Sandra Kobina. I like her a lot. I think she's she's silently devastating, right? Like the things she says sounds so nice and polite and stuff. But her questions are very, very pointed. And anyway, she says, Pierre Polyev says, great to join Sandra Kobina and many proud Canadians at Ranch Fresh Supermarkets in Newmarket. Conservatives will axe the tax. Again? This is what we're going with. Okay, axe the tax. On hidden foods, the hidden taxes on foods and cut the red tape so local grocers can lower costs and Canadian families can finally afford their groceries again. You know, it would be good if we got rid of the carbon tax and stuff. All sorts of things come to mind, but sure, axing all the hidden taxes would be great too. How about we start with inflation? Let's start with that one. Let's have a 0% inflation target for the Bank of Canada. How about that? Maybe we should remove central banking entirely from our system. Maxime Bernier says, oh, I've got to say goodbye soon. Okay, I've got a bit of time here. I wanted to get into the justice stuff, so I'm going to try and zoom through that. Maxime Bernier says, unlike pandering Pierre, we receive no funding from pro-Israel or pro-Palestine lobbies. We are neither pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian. We are pro-Canada. We put Canadians' interests first. People get so mad when I say this. My position is we shouldn't send a dime to anybody. If we are sending money to foreign countries for war, then we're paying too much in tax, and we're for sure paying too much in tax. But we shouldn't be having politicians take money from pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian lobbies. We shouldn't have lobbies. We shouldn't have lobbyists. I don't know how to fix that problem. I don't have a quick, we should do this instead, but we shouldn't have lobbyists. I know it's a difficult thing to regulate, but having it as a whole thing and giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to a politician to make sure that they treat your cause with the right care, there's something about that seems very corrupt. Okay, moving on to the justice stuff. Our justice system is corrupt. The police are corrupt. Everything is corrupt. And they're using that corruption to crack down on you. And they're bringing foreigners in because they think that the homegrown cops won't do it. So they're bringing the foreigners in. And their reason for thinking that the homegrown cops won't do it is because they wouldn't do it during the Freedom Convoy. Some of them. They didn't have enough. They had to bring in people, the UN people who didn't have badges and things. They just had green fatigues. Those guys. So it's all corrupt. It's all corrupt. And the justice system is the backbone of the corruption, or part of the backbone of the corruption, because the political system is the backbone of the corruption. Mario says, exclusive data analysis reveals Liberals appoint judges who are party donors. This means that more judges who donate to the Liberal Party are brought to the bench than Conservative donors. When I say liberal justice, you know what I mean. He means that the system is corrupted. Here's Adam Skelly, and he's talking about how the government is just papers, and it's the people in the positions taking action that are the evil ones. The government's not evil. It's benign. It's the people who are using it to move forward and take action. So his charter challenge is coming up on the February 25th. That's tomorrow, to the 27th, excuse me. And it's a constitutional challenge to Ontario's lockdown powers. And here's what Adam Skelly says, from Alberta probably, but he might be in Ontario. He's probably in Ontario now, waiting for tomorrow's court date. Duh. Here we go.
At the beginning of this, I really thought that the government was bad, that it was like this separate thing than me, and you just look at it like, oh, the government's bad, the government's corrupt. What I'd like people to understand more is the government is just a stack of papers, and any corruption that exists within it is as a result of men and women acting in an evil manner who are compromised in one way or another by sin. So my recommendation to people is realize that, understand it. Who was the president who said, ask not what the government can do for you, but what you can do for your government? This is it. It's things like this, standing firm in situations, holding people accountable. The government doesn't really do that itself. It doesn't have its own will. It's done by men and women acting. So use your free will, repent, turn from your sin, do the right thing, and enact the change that you want to see. At the beginning of this,
I thought he was going to walk back and say, they're not really evil, they're this, and I was like, oh my gosh, he sold out. But then he turned it and then I understood the message he was getting at, and I was like, okay, no, he didn't. Good job, Adam Skelly. So Scott says, cops in Canada busted working with gangs in an extortion ring. I'm not just speaking that cops are corrupt and because like I don't like cops and, you know, oink, oink, oink. No, that's not it at all. I wanted to be a police officer. I'm really glad I'm not a police officer. Holy smoke. I would, the whole jab thing, I'd be done. Done. See you later. I'm out. Bye. All of it. No, it just doesn't work for me. Very difficult to have a nightly ritual of chocolate cereal if you're a police officer, I think too. So it's, you know, I'm glad, but I respect the idea of law enforcement. But when you betray the citizens that you're supposed to protect, I don't respect you, right? And so, and I don't respect police forces that kowtow to a woke agenda. I don't respect police forces that open investigations on people for non-crime hate incidents like in the United Kingdom. And I'm sure that's happening in Canada. I'm sure of it. In Canada, we had RCMP taking pictures of people who went to PPC rallies. This is a misuse of the government apparatus, and people should be held accountable for that kind of stuff. So I think I'm not just talking like hypothetically, they're corrupt. I'm going to get through this and we got to say goodbye to this stream. Canada, or cops in the UK accused of raping children and running cover for migrant gangs. So there's a theme here. There's a pattern, right? This children thing just keeps coming up. Courts running cover for both. Yup. But if you complain or say there's only two genders, you get fined or end up in prison. I don't think elections are going to fix this problem.